Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is the title of my research, Examining the Impact of Transformational Leadership and Readiness for Change on Educators' Workplace Commitment in MTUN, a Qualitative Approach. Let's start off with the introduction. A little bit brief background of the study. Higher education institutions are essential to Malaysia's intellectual and educational development. Educators face ongoing challenges such as weak leadership, poor structures, and limited support. Academic leaders must create supportive environments that prioritize educators' well-being. Let's move on to the research objectives. There are three here. Number one is assess educators' workplace commitment at Malaysian technical universities. And then examine how transformational leadership influences educator commitment. And last one is investigate if readiness for change mediates this relationship. The importance of the study is it addresses low educator commitment and its link to student underperformance, and it highlights the critical role of transformational leadership in improving commitment. And last one is it emphasizes the need for supportive, well-aligned academic environments. Let's move on to the research questions. There are two here. Number one is, how does transformational leadership among MTUN academic leaders influence the workplace commitment of MTUN educators? Number two is, to what extent does readiness for change mediate the relationship between transformational leadership and workplace commitment among MTUN educators? Here's the proposed research framework. There's independent variable, which is transformational leadership, and then mediating variable is readiness for change, and the dependent variable is educators' workplace commitment. Methodology. The research design, it employs qualitative approach to explore the impact of transformational leadership and readiness for change on educator commitment. It captures in-depth experiences, perception, and context not accessible through quantitative methods. It uses non-numerical data, which is analyzed through thematic analysis of interview transcripts. The participants, there are 10 experienced educators altogether with 10 years plus of experience from various MTUN faculties selected via purposeful sampling. Participants had direct exposure to transformational leadership, change readiness, and workplace commitment. The selection is supported by qualitative research standards. A little bit definition of qualitative research standards. Guest et al. In 2006, according to him, the standard is saturation can often be achieved with 6 to 12 interviews in qualitative research. And the relevance is it supports your decision to select 10 participants as sufficient to identify recurring themes. And then Morse in 1995, the standard is at least 6 participants are recommended for phenomenological studies to allow deep exploration of life experiences. And the relevance is it justifies the minimum participant number in your qualitative interview approach. Ulfa et al. In 2022, the standard is it emphasizes that teaching experience contributes to richer insights due to enhanced knowledge and pedagogical skills. The relevance is that it supports the selection of educators with 10 years plus experience for meaningful contributions. Darling-Hammond, 2009, says that the standard for qualitative research is it advocates that experienced educators demonstrate greater proficiency and deeper reflections in teaching and leadership contexts. And the relevance is it reinforces the choice of experienced educators as key informants in your study. Let's go to the data collection. It is a semi-structured interview based on validated questions. Expert judgment used to ensure content validity. Interviews conducted face-to-face or virtually based on participants' preference. It is audio recorded, transcribed, and analyzed for teams using coding techniques. Let's move on to the results. For research question number 1, how does transformational leadership among MTUN academic leaders influence the workplace commitment of MTUN educators? Here are the key themes identified. There are a few here. Number 1 is innovation and inclusivity, and then recognition and advancement, and then ethical leadership, professional growth and intellectual challenge, supportive work environment, mentorship and relationship, shared values and goals. Let's move on to the interpretation of the result. Transformational leadership practices directly influence educators' emotional and professional commitment. And then, inclusive and ethical leadership fosters a trusting, motivating environment. Leaders who mentor, challenge, and align with educators' values increase long-term institutional loyalty. And last one is supportive and growth-focused environment encourage educators to stay committed and perform at their best. Let's move on to research question number 2. To what extent does readiness for change mediate the relationship between transformational leadership and workplace commitment among MTUN educators? Here are the key themes that are identified in the study. One is communication and clarity of leaders, and then leadership support and enthusiasm, trust and confidence in leadership, openness and engagement in change processes, framing challenges as opportunities, and then training and development opportunities. A. Mediating function of readiness for change. When readiness is high, educators feel equipped, motivated, and supported, making them more likely to stay engaged and loyal. B. Readiness is both cognitive and emotional. Readiness involves understanding through clear communication, confidence via training and support, and emotional safety through trust and encouragement. C. Trust and transparency as critical levers. When educators trust that leaders are transparent and competent, they are more willing to commit even under uncertain or difficult conditions. Last one, commitment is reinforced by inclusion and empowerment. Educators felt greater ownership over changes when they were engaged in the process and saw their development prioritized. Let's move on to the conclusion. Summary of the contributions of this particular study. It established the mediating role of readiness for change in the relationship between transformational leadership and workplace commitment among MTUN educators. And then it identified key leadership behaviors such as communication, support, enthusiasm, and ethical conduct as critical to enhancing educators' change readiness and commitment. It highlighted the importance of trust and transparency in fostering educators' openness to organizational change. It demonstrated that leadership-driven professional development significantly improves educators' adaptability and engagement. It provided practical insights for academic institutions to strengthen commitment through inclusive, proactive, and supportive leadership during transitions. Let's move on to the limitations of the study. Limited generalizability due to focus solely on MTUN educators and not other universities. And then qualitative design, restrict statistical analysis and causal inference. Cross-sectional data provides no insight into changes over time. Potential response bias and exclusion of other stakeholders may have influenced findings. And the last one is cultural factors affecting leadership and change readiness were not deeply examined. Future research direction. It expands the study to other institutions or regions to enhance generalizability across diverse educational contexts. It adopts longitudinal research design to examine changes in leadership, impact, and commitment over time. It includes multiple stakeholders, for example, students, administrators, for a more comprehensive understanding of organizational dynamics. It incorporates quantitative methods to enable statistical validation and causal analysis. It explores cultural influences on transformational leadership and change readiness more deeply. That's all. Thank you.